Hi, my name is JerryAsp. I'm a Teltan from northern British Columbia.
I'm JerryAsp.
JerryAsp.
My name is JerryAsp.
I'm the Vice President for the Canadian Aboriginal Minerals Association. Philip JerryAsp is my name. My background is mining. I'm at CDAC today because I'm the recipient for the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Award. Philip was my dad's name.
And I'm also the Vice President for the National Aboriginal Energy and Power Association.
Right now I'm the President of C3Alliance Corporation.
JerryAsp is a doer. He gets things done.
Nobody ever called me Philip. They just called me Jerry. I was an underground miner and a diamond driller. Mining is my background. And construction, I worked construction for many years. But I found time, I got tired of working in 40 below weather, and so I took some business courses back in the early 80s. And more or less that's how I got started in business. I'm the president of C3Alliance Corporation. That's a company that works with First Nations, resource developers and governments on projects such as hydro or mining and forestry as well. And our motto is getting to yes, helping the developer and the First Nations reach a solution that's beneficial for all. My grandfather, George Zerza, was the last true hereditary chief of the Teltan people. Oh, my grandfather was somebody else. He was 6'4" and could do the work of 3 men. Had 21 children, 18 lived. Never been on welfare, built a house everywhere he lived, built river boats, built the barges to haul heavy equipment around East Lake before the road was there. Oh, he was somebody else, my grandfather, believe me. And he ran the largest native-owned and operated outfitting territory, hunting territory over in Atlan until he retired, sold to his son. So business comes to me quite honestly. I was a board of director for the National Indian Businessmen's Association in 1981. We weren't even politically correct in those days. The CCAB is a product of that, the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business. And I sat on the Western board for 3 years. It was called the National Economic Development Program, NEDP, and I sat on that board for 6 years. And now they've called it the Aboriginal Business Programs. I was back in the day when we were just starting out. Teltan Nation Development Corporation was the largest native-owned and operated heavy construction company in Western Canada. That means right from the Ontario-Manitoba border. For years, Teltan Nation Development Corporation was the biggest. I started that. Like I said, I started building houses. Then went into heavy construction company, etc., because I knew we had lots of trained people for heavy construction, and went from there. We started the Canadian Aboriginal Minerals Association in 1990, Hans Matthews and I. He's the president, he's a geologist by training. I'm the vice president, and we started the CAMA because mining people and First Nations didn't know how to talk to each other. When our first conference, I think we had 65 people there, including staff. We were lucky if we had 15 First Nations there. Our last conference was in Winnipeg, and we had 600 delegates, and it was just about 50-50 First Nation and mining reps. And they were all speaking to each other in the same language, and that was after 18 years. So we pretty well achieved our goal of getting First Nations and the mining industry to understand each other.
My name is Bob Hathaway. I am a director of the Canadian Aboriginal Minerals Association. I first met JerryAsp about 20 years ago. We were serving on a number of different Aboriginal corporations based out of Vancouver, and I found him to be an extremely astute business person. He led his own First Nation into what we later learned would be the very first large, successful Aboriginal corporations. He's especially gifted in being able to match Aboriginal talents and needs to opportunities in the business world. And he finds himself very adept at being able to speak the language of corporate Canada and of Aboriginal Canada. bearing in mind that Jerry always keeps the Aboriginal perspective foremost in everything that he does.
I want First Nations on reserve to have a middle class the same as the white populace. It's the middle class that keeps economies and things going. Sad truth in reserves, you got poor people and rich people and no middle class because the economics and the development aren't there in most places. I don't try to tell the First Nations what to do. I tell them what I've done or what we've tried and show them what worked and what didn't work. And mainly that's what I think my greatest role can be in their development. Their biggest hindrance is the fact that they have never been in real business. And so I try to guide them through some of the minefields that I've been through. I'm a great fan of Will Rogers, the North American Indian philosopher. He said, you have to learn from other people's mistakes because you don't live long enough to make them all yourself. And so that's what I try to tell people. I say, these are mistakes that I made or things that I've seen, and you could try them if you want, but this was the results for me.
And I think one of the things that Jerry really excels in is to be able to never forget the cultural aspect of the project and make sure that the environment is foremost in whatever they're doing. In all of the negotiations that I've been with Jerry, he always starts off with saying the first thing we need to understand is that the environment is not negotiable. And then we get into the business details. And again, he's very good at taking the professional corporate terminology and being able to communicate that with the Aboriginal community. And I think that's a gift that we could certainly use a lot more of because there is huge opportunity both for Canada and for First Nations.
One of the biggest failings of Aboriginal, as I call them, crown corporations, development corporations owned by First Nations, is they forget that they're in business to make money. They think of training and employment first. They hire 3 people to do one person's job. Nobody can sustain, no company can sustain that for long. Nobody. You're going to get in trouble. Training and employment are byproducts of well-run companies, not the other way around. Simple as that. And that's what I tell all First Nations that I work with.
Jerry always says that there are 4 things we have to make sure are attended to. And the first is that there's a good match, physically and psychologically, between the employee and the job at hand. And if that doesn't go well, then probably management has failed and not the employee. He then turns to the training, and he says that everybody has to be trained for a particular job. And I think that's true also. The third thing he likes to emphasize is the proper tools. Even if we're trained, and even if we're suited to the job, if we don't have the tools to do the job, we probably will not be successful, at least to the degree we'd like to succeed. And the last thing is support. The employer, the corporations, and the communities have to provide support to the entrepreneur.
The secret of business is learn all you can about the business you're going to go into, and learn all you can about a potential joint venture partner. If you want to learn business, go into partnership with somebody who has the business you want to be in. We joint ventured with construction companies because I needed good foremans and superintendents. We had money, we had equipment, we had good trained operators, but I didn't have foremans and I didn't have superintendents. And then when we wanted to do a joint venture, we found a small construction company that met our needs. People that we knew, we knew the company, we knew the people who ran it, we knew the people who owned it, and we felt that they were a good fit for the Teltans, and it worked out very well. That's how you learn. You have to give up your profit for a while. You joint venture for 5 years, 10 years. I'm not happy about giving up 50% or 49% of my profit, but I will, because then I can learn and our people do it ourselves afterwards. It's a cheap investment. I always knew that business was business, period. I always knew that. How did these people make money? Profit. No company can run without profit, period. If you're there to create employment and training opportunities, then you're not running a business, you're running a social program. And if it fails, then don't complain, because you weren't in business, you were in social programs. You run it exactly the same as non-natives, the Chinese, the Europeans. Doesn't matter. It's just business, and business means profit. Making things and selling things. No mystery.
I think the things that make any project successful is first the visionary. There have to be people that can see the future and then communicate what they see in the future to the people that are trying to get things done. Second part of it is the doers, and the doers are the people like Jerry.
I learned that no matter where you are people, period. They're people. That's probably the biggest thing. And it doesn't matter whether I'm in Peru or whether I'm in Kelowna. The issues, even though the political issues are different, the basic issues of human relationships, etc., are exactly the same. No difference. They want the same thing we do. They want the chicken in the pot, and mode of transportation in the garage, and a roof over their head. Exactly the same as we do. And hopefully less disease to take their children. No different than us. And hopefully I can help make that happen. I, in essence, work for the First Nation. And I tell companies and government that I am here for their best interest.